Hello and welcome to Expected Grass, an FPL podcast. We are back for game week 6 every Tuesday as usual with my co-host Simon at analytic_FPL on X. I am, of course, FPL Nima. I've put my star boy Bukayo Saka on the thumbnail today if you're listening on podcast and don't see this. But yeah, good to be back, Simon. My wildcard's active. And I see that you've, shadowly added free hit 9 into your quote retweet, and we've not even discussed it before going on air. Welcome.
Yeah. Hey man, yeah, good to be back. And I thought I'd just sneak something in there. As everyone knows, we don't really chat about it before, so this is the first you heard. We maybe spent 30 seconds on it backstage, and I was like, let's save it for the pod. So Nima, yeah, wildcard active, very exciting. My wildcard is not active.
Not active. So yeah, you're nowhere near, right? Like you've got a lot of role transfers as well.
Yeah, we can get into it later, but I came into this game with 3, and I've used 1 already.
Okay, that's a good position to be in.
And the price change I was using it for hasn't happened, so that's classic, isn't it?
Classic. Don't you love that though? It's just so
yeah, I actually do love it. I mean, I know people go kind of crazy about like, oh, they should publish the price changes and be certain, but I kind of love it. I kind of love the fact that you have to guess a bit, and so there were some people who wouldn't make that early move, and maybe we get some info tonight, and they've played the game better than me, and so fair play. Like that's I kind of like that that's uncertain.
You like people getting punished as well. Either way,
yeah,
they get punished because nothing changes.
I just got punished now, but I like it still. So I'm actually being fair, right? Because I was just on the receiving end. So come on.
Fair enough. So how was your game week 5 in the end? I know you were doing better than me going into game week, but I saw you put a tweet out. I think I'm trying to remember the exact words. You might know which one I'm talking about. It was the one where you were kind of like I might as well throw in the towel at this stage. I think I saw it the week before, and then I think you meant about buying Haaland, but then this week it was like another step into depression.
Yeah. I mean, like obviously they're all quite light-hearted in reality. I'm not actually gonna quit. Like, don't worry, people.
Okay, I'm making sure. That's all. I'm just checking because I've seen people do those kind of tweets and leave FPL Twitter, and I see you doing it in back-to-back weeks. It makes me a bit worried about you as a co-host.
Nah, it's all good. Sometimes the variance goes for you, sometimes it goes against. And in the first week, it really went for me, and then since then, it's not really done the same. So that's okay. It was not a good week. It was 47 points, which
I think I was the same as you, by the way. I think, or 46. Jesus Christ! Even in your worst week, when you're saying you're going to quit,
you got loads of points this week, didn't you?
Oh, have I got the wrong week? Oh, because I saw a head-to-head game that I lost 47 to 46. It must have been last week, and I was bitter about it in the league standing. So yeah, it's fresh on my mind. I just saw it. No, so this week I did well. You're right. I got a green arrow this week.
You got 77 points.
This is how funny it is. So I'll tell you, I don't even look because, in the game week, I've started to learn not to look. Yeah, I've been trying not to look as much.
You just thought you did 30 points worse than you did. You're cooking yourself,
but that's what I mean. So I'm so confident in how it's going and just enjoying the game as it is. This is what I mean. So for me this season, do you know what it's been? It's all been price changes. I'll be real with you. So everything I wasn't. Yeah, everything I wasn't before, I am now. I made 0.9 million in team value or something recently, and normally I'd be the guy a few mil behind.
Okay, so this is the real game, obviously. What is your team value right now?
I think it's only 101.5. I was catching up. Even though I was being aggressive, there was people being more aggressive than me. That's what I realized.
Okay, it's still pretty good though.
It's still
I guess you made a bunch on the wild card, right?
I have, but I also lost some, where let's say I sell someone like João Pedro, he's only risen by 0.1. He's now dropped since. Same with Jota. So there was players that had artificial 0.2 million just right there in them, and whether I sold them now or later, it was going to sell for the same price. So, but I caught people going up. So now I've got a more real team value, I think, because I've actually got players who've risen more than once as well. And I've never been in this situation. I'm on the wild card. I always save it till late. You're now talking about free hit 9, which concerns me because then I think, when will you wild card? Game week 19?
Well, maybe. Who knows? I mean, let's start with you. Let's start with the wild card, and then we can go into my team. Let's.
No. Let's see. Are you sure you want to see the wild card first? Okay, we'll go to the wild card first. It's
I think that's quite a lot to discuss on this wild card. No. Don't give me what you have. Just give me what you're thinking.
Just a discussion about it. That's a good idea. Yeah, I don't want to just share my screen. I think it's more natural just to have a casual chat because I'm not even sure yet. Is it your price rises? That's all I have so far.
Okay. You don't have like a draft in mind that you want to get to when you take out the price change moves.
I have like 2 alternatives, and I always think of formations, right? So for me, I've got like a 3-4-3 with that same dead bench, yeah, that you love. The 4 million goalkeeper, 2 4 million defenders. But my fifth, I guess, player or my eighth attacker in midfield overall is one of Smith Rowe and Rogers. So it's kind of like,
Yeah, that's
again,
fine.
it's okay, but I'm
I
not
think you
happy
can
with
even
all
have
of it.
two. You can have two. You can have like both a 5.5 and a Rogers, I think.
But would you also have Dibbling as well and 2 4 millions? Or is that too far even for
No,
you?
it would be instead of Dibbling.
Okay. Instead of okay,
Let's
so
have a
instead of
look. Let's
have
have
a
a look
look.
at one. Let's have a look at the teams you're thinking about, and then I'll also I had to think about what I would pick on wildcard as well, which I told you, but I haven't shared what it is. So you can have a look at that, and I'd be interesting to get your thoughts on it. I
Yeah,
don't think you're gonna like
let's
it.
do a couple of shout outs as well though, and then I want to compare it to the team I'm on so far. Good shout. So good to see John Doe. Thanks for tuning in, buddy. JC, evening guys. Thank you for tuning in live. At Purple, good evening, everyone. Ashe Meta, good to see you, buddy. Thank you. And yeah, guys, just get your comments in. We'll start them for the Q&A at the end, as always. We'll just answer all the questions and we'll timestamp that time when we do it in case you have to do stuff with your evening and then you want to see the answer to your question later. On that note, we always ask you to like and subscribe like an hour in. So if you're watching this back not live and you do enjoy what you're about to see, please consider subscribing on our journey to 250. And that's really the hashtag ads out the way, which I'm sure you'll notice is much less than even any other content I do myself. Like I'm normally a walking, talking advertisement of all my different podcasts instead of sponsors, just because I'm doing so much, Simon, right? Like I'm doing another pod tomorrow. I'm now going to be a guest on Thursday. Then I'm doing Arsenal on Friday, Arsenal review on Sunday. It just dawned on me that in the next like 5 days or something, like 4 of them are like doing a podcast. So it's pretty crazy.
You're addicted, man. You're addicted.
I'm addicted. But just Rick as well, shout out to you while you're live before we move on from the live shout outs. We will answer this Dallo question maybe even now when I'm looking at the team I'm about to share on screen. So let's have a look.
Sure.
So this is my
Let's have a look.
team right now. Okay, so I think I might need to zoom in, but let's give this a try.
Yeah. If you zoom in, because the quality is kind of iffy. I know we don't really prepare.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
one day we'll take screenshots and then we can just put them in.
Yeah, well, I do it for my other podcast, so I must apologize. But also, I have
Come on,
Clayton who
man.
helps with the other one. I feel like I let you down, but I'm like, this podcast for me, you do the audio files. The only one I don't do the audio that I'm on at the time sometimes. But now Clayton does the other audio. You do this audio, so it feels like I'm only doing one audio upload. So that's what makes it
man.
feel like okay. There's 3 of them, but only one of them I have to do the actual podcast file for. So it's my little relief, I suppose, in all of this. But
Right, okay. You're my guest, basically.
Yeah. I feel like I'm your guest, and yet I try to host it, and then I disappear. Right? You said it yourself, so I'm off again. Like next week, you're gonna have to get a guest because I'll be going as a guest, right, on Juice, and then by the time that finishes, it will be too late to get home from North London. So I needed to get someone like Fran last time, and then the week after is international break, and I think the reason I can't do that anyway is because it's PSG home. So with my new season ticket, I'm going to try to check out some Arsenal players for my scouting for my team. But we'll get into the FPL anyway. We're 8 minutes in. We say hello to everyone who's live and Tommy Gunn. Evening, everyone. Here's my team so far. It's just price rises. I'll be honest with you. I think if I click on my transfers, right, you can at least see what I've done so far, right?
Well, no, show me what you're thinking about for your team.
I will, but I want to see if my transfer history is here, just so you can see all I've done, right? So before this, I like to look at a season as a whole and every move along the way.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So obviously, like this is what I mean by early for me. So 26th of August, I went in Nkunku Smith Rowe, get price rise both way. I had to do it. I did Isaac to Pedro early on, but that was to fund Salah. That didn't really go so well, but I had him as captaincy. And then apart from those moves, I've not really done anything. So I've done all 3 moves I did with the price changes so far. And now I'm a wild card and tried to catch more. So that's the pink.
Yeah, they were kind of for price changes. They were good. They were moves to get points as well. You just went early for them, right?
Yeah, but like I'm bringing Saka back now, right? And I've changed my whole team up.
But that's the point of a wild card, right?
But the thing, one thing I forgot to tell you, I've just realized, is one of the drafts I had 3 4 million defenders. They had Van der Berg as well. I don't know what you think about that. You're asking me what do I want to do with my team and things like that. So one of the things is I see variations of this team. This is what I meant about formations. We'll go back to the wildcard now. 10 minutes. I'll timestamp this. The 3-4-3 for me is like this formation doesn't quite feel right. Like having both of a Calvert-Lewin and Jackson price point, and then like losing like a Salah or Palmer level. So in my mind, I'm like, do I just go for that 4.5 million forward? Because I've then seen these like variations like 3-5-2s where Rodgers is just playing every week, which I kind of want him to do anyway. But instead of having a Smith Rowe on the bench to play a Calvert-Lewin, I might have a Palmer or a Salah. So I'm like, holy shit! Like, is that worth it? And maybe I can then downgrade other players in other positions, like Raya. I would downgrade him by like 1 million to help fund that. I would also downgrade another 2 million from like Calvert-Lewin or Jackson even. Part of me like doesn't want Raya, so that's the other flip side of it now. If I didn't go for a 3-5-2, I'd want to go for a 3-4-3 without double Arsenal defense. So I'm just going to stop there. And after my 1 minute kind of general ramblings of all my thoughts on Tuesday to timestamp this, where do you think I'm going to land by Friday, Saturday, now that you've heard my two options?
Okay, this is quite interesting. I don't look at this team and think it's a 3-4-3. So for the benefit of the audio guys, it's Raya in goal and then a 4.0 on the bench. Trent, Gabriel, Konsa, and then two 4.0s on the bench, Greaves and Feist. Saka, Diaz, Rodgers, and Burma, Smith Rowe midfield, Jackson, Haaland, DCL up front. I look at that and I'm like, you have 8 attackers and you're going to play 5 midfielders some weeks and 4 midfielders some other weeks. Because when Calvert-Lewin has a bad fixture and Smith Rowe has a nice fixture, or whoever you pick in there, could be Semenyo.
But is that worth it, I guess? Is that combination of, like, say, Smith Rowe, as I was saying, and, like,
yeah, I like that.
Diaz, do you think that's good?
I think that's one of those things where having that player in that spot allows you to do quite a few things. It allows you to get better fixtures overall without using transfers. It allows you to absorb some kind of injury doubts or like knocks and stuff where players miss one game and still have a good first bench option to kind of come in without using.
I guess it's like last week, right?
Yeah.
When I got kind of lucky, I'm not going to lie. So we'll look at where I was at, I suppose. But real quick, as you said, the 77, I got quite lucky, hence the 77, right? That's why I don't know. So I didn't even know that like Jota didn't come on, and then I was reading like about who you getting off the bench for Jota. I opened Twitter and I think it was Focal's message, and I was like, "No, this is a prank." And I knew that Mooney's had got the points, and I thought, "Oh yeah, he got an assist on my bench this whole time, right?" I couldn't conceive a world in which Jota didn't start, and I think that was the last thing that triggered me to the wild card, right? Because
it's outrageous.
Because I had 2 free tracks. That's why it's fully jammy. And before that, I'd actually benched Mooney's to play Smith Rowe. So if I'd actually, if Jota had played, it would have blocked Mooney's, and things could have gone wrong for me.
But yeah, it's only 4 points in the end of the day, but still.
But with Henderson 9, the week when that happened, you know what I mean? Like when 2 of your low-owned players EOA, because if I look at my like live FPL ownership,
the thing that killed me versus you, I think, was the Villa's like last-minute spree with Rodgers 2 assists and the Konsa goal.
The goal and the bonuses. Yeah, so this was it, right? Look, 16% Henderson, 14% Konsa, and then like 4% Mini. So these were all very low-owned. Even Trent, man, 35%.
Yeah, so it's like I had Minter, I had Minter instead of Rodgers, and then I had Dunk instead of Konsa, and that's like 18 points less, and that's half the difference. And then what? Solanke over Haaland, okay, fine. And then I had Saka, Smith Rowe outscored Saka, okay, fine. It was a difficult game, but yeah, and then Henderson over Raya. So you just like found more points than me everywhere. Yeah, 47. I'm down at like 3.3 mil overall rank, and I got another.
What kind of drop is that in 1 week? Let me put in. Do you want me to put in your ID or do you want to show your team?
I was like 2.1 before the game week, so it's like another.
Yeah, you were just around my rank. Yeah, okay. So I went to 2.5. I see. Yeah, the week before I went from 2 to 2.5, and you went down as well.
Yeah, second week like 8.4 mil game week rank.
Yeah, so we'll go to the team. I'll tell you like realistically. So these are all placeholders as I was.
Can I show you my
yeah, let's see. The one that you said I want to compare. Let's do it.
I'm kind of curious what you think. Okay, so if I put it in here.
But just before you do that, all the players you saw, apart from like triple Arsenal I'm gonna have and stuff, like they're all placeholders. So like there's certain players I'm watching. It's like a very short list. And as you know, I save it in just like notes. So I don't like really care to put it into the spreadsheet yet or the solver. But all I've got here is just like a few changes I would make on my wild card. And it's like there isn't much, man. It's like Conta to Lewis or something, or Raya to Sanchez or Flecken, and like maybe Saliba if I don't get Havertz. Looking at people like Semenyo, right? That's about it. That's literally my entire thinking in that structure. So
Yeah, okay.
so like Luis Diaz to Semenyo, then like Jackson to Kai. Like these are the kinds of things that might happen, and then like Raya to someone else. It's a very small handful of moves I might move from where I am. Now let's compare it to what you've got.
Okay, so I have Raya in goal as well. 4.0 can be whoever. Keeper on the bench. Got Vardiol, Robertson, Gabriel, Dunk, and then a 4.0. It could be anyone, maybe Greaves. I left Feist just so I couldn't bother to change that. That's who I have in my team. Saka, Mbomo, Fernandez, Rogers, and Dibbling. And then Haaland, Pedro, and Solanke. Now,
the Solanke pick is good. I like the Solanke pick, but I don't know if it's just because I even know they withheld his price drops. Specifically, they tried to withhold them because it was like he was priced as a Bournemouth asset, and obviously he had it game loaded when he was at Tottenham. I think he wouldn't have cost that much.
Is this an exclusive, like little reveal from you?
No, but
Do you know that for sure,
isn't
or
it?
are you
No,
just?
it's just
Is
common
this
sense,
tinfoil
right?
hat? It's tinfoil hat.
No, because we know they've said they do keep manual ones, right? Like they'll prevent certain things or manually increase thresholds. So I'm pretty confident of it. Like I feel like I've watched it for years. Like you put the kind of quantitative and qualitative data together, right? And then you kind of
I don't
figure
mind
it.
it. I think it's fine. I think Solanke at 7.5 mil is it's fine to stop his price going down. Just for
I think it's fine. But I mean, that makes him a good pick. That's the reason I'm thinking about it. Forget.
Yeah. Well, I bought him in last week. I know I said on the pod last week I was going to do Muniz to Vardy or DCL. In the end, the bit of doubt over Isak meant I did Isak to Solanke instead. So I haven't him in my actual team. Well, that got me the money
because of Isak's news.
Yeah, exactly. So that freed up like 0.9 as well. So it was nice to get a goal. He had 3 big chances, scored like 1.6 XG or something.
I love how Bruno's
1.5.
still, by the way, in 6 transfers used out of 3 to show your potential wild card, and we still got Bruno there. And I saw other tweets from you down on that hill as well.
What's wrong with Bruno? Like I don't get it.
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but it's funny because a lot of people are now trying to say like, oh, it's a bad outcome. You can't make decisions based on they're like the outcome's the only thing that matters in whether it was a good or bad decision. And I'm seeing that conversation prop up a lot on the timeline last few days.
Yeah, that's fine in terms of like it's true in terms of it's the only thing that matters in terms of what actually affects your rank. But in terms of what you're going to predict going forward from game week 6 through to 38, like all the signals are good. The minutes are still there. We still think he's on penalties. The data this season has been good. The long-term data is like enough to make him good value at 8.5. He's the same price as he was last year when lots of other assets have gone up. So relative to last year, he's better value. And he's fine. Like the fixtures coming up are good.
Yeah, but obviously you're not wildcarding either, so I don't see a world in which I was. This is the problem for
No,
playing.
no, as in this is what I would do on my wildcard. I would pick him on wildcard. I would pick him on wildcard. No question. It's like
he's like the perfect analytics pick, guaranteed to play 90 minutes, penalties. It's like a dream.
He ticks every box.
But it's funny because that's why I don't have him. This is what I mean. Because for me, he's the kind of player that once I did have him, I wouldn't sell him once I have him either way. You're a glutton for punishment because you'd wildcard him.
But that's part of the value of him, right? Because you don't have to sell him. So you can use your free transfers on the rest of your team. So you can like chase other fixture swings elsewhere.
Unless he's injured,
like, fix other fires. Exactly. He's not gonna be someone where it's like, oh shit, I had this plan, but I need to use a transfer to fix Fernandez. It just doesn't happen. Right. Like he might get injured because anyone might get injured, but the chances are lower than the average player, right? So I think, yeah, sure. I would just have him on wildcard. I have him right now. I would keep him in my team on wildcard. I think I think the only reason that people are kind of going crazy is he hasn't returned for a few games, but like big whoop, like.
Well, Salah's got 1 assist in the last two, right? And a lot of people are getting brave selling him. And I'm seeing like Hub's AI predicting one of the highest point scorers in the next three. And then people are saying, "Oh, are you going against Salah on wildcard?"
Yeah, I
And
think
then
you
I'm
can sell Salah on wildcard. I think it's fine to send Salah on wildcard. I think Haaland has a really like a better run, 7 to 9 for sure.
those
And
fixtures are too good, right? To not
and
have Haaland.
Saka's got a really nice 6 and 7, and like having Haaland, Salah, and Saka doesn't really work. So
What about
Saka being
Bournemouth
the
then
one.
for you? Just for the next two, or do you see that as a transfer out? Because obviously you've got João Pedro. Is that an opportunity for someone like me who I've got the two free transfers now? And then do I just kind of save some? Do I roll this and then have two again next week after the wild card and then have three the following week? Like do I just kind of go for players that I can sell in 2 weeks and actually I've got the transfers to do it?
No, I think I would look to save after your wild card. It's a spot where you should be able to put yourself in a position where you can like roll pretty cheaply, and then you can use those transfers later in high value spots. I think for the kind of general 6 template, then using some transfers in game week 10 is going to be quite necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another one where I think Liverpool and Arsenal play in 13, or maybe 14. I can't remember. But kind
It's
of
soon.
around then,
It's in November,
yeah.
yeah.
So there's like a couple of other spots where I think you could need your transfers to use like 3 in a couple of those weeks if you wanted to like do a big switch. And therefore, if you have a wild card now, I would try and build it so it's a good team for 7 and 8 and probably 9 as well, at the very least. So you can try to roll as much as possible and then only have to use them to fix fires that come up.
So what about our Bournemouth players now then? So what about like the likes of or Semenyo, someone you just see that you would keep, or do you just or Evan Elson even? I mean, like, could you go for him as a striker and then just know that you're going to get out at some point?
Well, if you look at your kind of first structure, that's part of where I like that 8th attacker a lot. Because if you have someone like Semenyo who has some good fixtures and then has some bad fixtures, you can find a rotation where you don't actually need to sell him to avoid the bad fixtures. You can just put him as your sub 1 or sub 2 or whatever.
Mm,
And
I like
then
that. Okay.
that's how you kind of ride those fixtures. So you work out who rotates well with
So,
Bournemouth. You put
so
that in
instead of
your
getting
other cheap
both,
attacking spot.
instead of trying to rotate Semenyo with Van Elson, you're telling me I should get players from different teams, because last time I did Smith Rowe and Muniz and I tried to rotate them with each other, and I've learned
Yeah.
something that's just like that. I've never thought of that before as a negative, and now I can see why. Because I
Yeah,
always
yeah,
end up
because you
benching
can't
the
get an
one
extra
from the
fixture,
team.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's so fucking annoying. Like I'm always playing the same one, and then when they have bad fixtures, they both fucking have it too.
Exactly, yeah. So for those cheap guys for like 7 and 8, so maybe you got like Rogers, Calvert-Lewin, and Semenyo. I don't know how they rotate, but as long as you can always like like 2 out of 3 are like okay fixtures, like that's fine.
At the
Because
moment, it's
you're
Smith
only spending
Rowe
like
and
1
Rogers.
million. You spend like 1 million to go from like Dibbling to Semenyo in order to be able to get like much better fixtures out of 3 players, kind of overall. It works out as pretty good value, and that's why solvers like that kind of thing a lot.
So what do you think
And
about in the draft you showed me? What if that had, instead of Raya, 1 million cheaper, so Dibbling could be upgraded to like a Semenyo? And then what if instead of Robertson you had a second Arsenal defender? Would you, firstly, is that affordable? And secondly, would you like that team less or more?
I think my preferred route to get there is to downgrade Solanke to Calvert-Lewin, so something like that,
Hmm.
and then yeah, you play Semenyo this week,
Because I like
and
Bournemouth's next two fixtures. And I just feel like they also play on Monday. Now, this sounds crazy, Simon, but I've told you each week I love to play knowing that, like, even on the last day in the last game, I have hope of a green arrow yet. Like, it's just maybe it's the Sky Fantasy Manager and me from the old days before that game got shut down, but it just feels more, especially when it's a day when there's only one game. It's like opening day of the season. That's why I originally had Muniz, right? Like, I had to
yeah,
have
yeah,
a
yeah.
player that played that night. You had Bruno. I was like, fuck, I want someone. And then oh man. So yeah, so for that reason as well, I feel like I can't be on wildcard and not have a Bournemouth player at home to Southampton.
Yeah, that's fair.
It feels like it's a wild card. Like right now, say I've got a Smith Rowe. I kind of want to keep him, but I'm like, could I just make him Semenyo and like go back to Smith Rowe if I needed, or maybe don't go back? Like take the price rise and get out?
I think Semenyo he's a fine pick on wildcard. I got no real arguments with that.
So he's probably the main. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else I would try and squeeze in. Just looking at your draft, the other names I had down, as I mentioned, were like Havertz. So my thinking was like if someone like, I guess, Raya was cheaper, like a Sanchez.
If you wanted the more expensive striker slot and Semenyo, you could do something like that. Well, Havertz would be too many Arsenal, but you could go Jackson or Solanke or in that spot, and you put Colwell in for Guardiola. So then you have like Raya, Colwell, Robertson, Gabriel.
Yeah, I guess the question is, do I prefer Raya, Colwell, or like Sanchez and a second Arsenal defender like Saliba? And maybe Raya Colwell's better.
Thing about the keeper versus defender thing is, if you put Sanchez in goal, you have to play Chelsea defense every week. And if you put Raya in goal, you have to play Arsenal defense every week, and you can rotate Chelsea. And so I kind of prefer having the best defense as your keeper, because you can rotate your defenders more than your keepers. Unless you're playing like Raya Verbugen and some sicko kind of 5.5.
I've seen that rotating a 5.5.
Yeah. Well,
I can't believe it.
Solvers love it, and then everyone bans it.
I've seen a few people doing it, but I've seen one guy trying to do it on a wildcard, and I was like, now I know where he must have got the idea from. It must have been the solver that got him drunk on bad ideas for marginal gains. But
yeah, it's like the way it works is it's like, because there's like a chance that your keeper gets injured, it starts like adding up those little bits of points, and then you need like a little bit of rotation in like one bad fixture, and then you kind of like you add up to like 3 or whatever points just from adding up all these little bits, and then that's why it does it. But like, I don't know, it just doesn't really work for me long-term structure wise to take that much money.
No, fair enough. Let's take a couple of these questions while we're here. So someone like Dallo as well from Rick, I wonder if this is a good time to mention it. Like, I guess, could you have him like instead of say someone like a Colwill? Like he seems like he could be an option, but he's up there in the points. He's been hoovering up bonus, but I just personally don't see how much I would see like Man United's clean sheet prospects for me. So for me, I would rather spend less, but I think it's a fair player to consider. I don't know about you, but for me, it's one of those where I feel like everyone sees him in the top point scorers when they go to transfer out their injured player or the player that blanked, and all the casuals see him, and every week they buy him. And as long as he returns, it will keep happening, and maybe there's some good price changes ahead, and he could end up just keep going, right? But I'm gonna like bet against that. So that's where I love the effective ownership we're talking about every week, right? Like I'm looking at that as an EO that's going up, and I'm like, yeah, I'm willing to hedge that with someone else. I'm willing to bet I can find someone similar price point who might keep up or do better, and maybe they're even lower owned than him. So that's in the positions where I am taking these risks. Those are the plays where I don't want to go with the masses. So I don't know, but Dallo is probably still a differential now, so it would be a great pick regardless. But just for me, not the right one for me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think Dallo is a fine pick. He's pairing in like some percentage of souls. Like he's not like a no hope or anything. He wasn't in the top like handful of defenders, but I think.
But he's still good. Like if he's your 4th or 5th defender, like I take it.
Yeah, I think if you have a like inkling that Man United defense is good, or that he's particularly good for bonus, like more than the models think or whatever, then sure.
That's if you've got an edge, right? Maybe you're a Man United fan, you like what you see from him, you know stuff about, you know, whether his X minutes will stay where they are when everyone's fit, and like you then take that punt.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, the way I look at it is like in the current projections, picking him is probably not the best choice, but like not a bad choice. And then if you have a reason to think that those projections are underestimating him, well, then it becomes a lot easier to justify having him in your team. And if you think that, then that's fine. Like, go for it.
All right, let's even into Tommy Gunn. I already said even into Colin Boogler. We have Zone with a question as well. No interest in Semenyo or Porro on wildcard, Simon. Lewis is being talked about by good creators like Fran. So yeah, Lewis, I keep seeing. I know Flapjack's a big lover of him too. Original fan, had him since game week 1. But for me, he's someone who like I look at like the concert slot now, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? Like I'd rather have Lewis. Like even if he gets benched, like I still rather have him. Like yeah, Walker's been starting, but Walker got done like against Arsenal. I was like, okay, he's on the pitch, he's the captain, but like come on, like Lewis looks so good. And, he's assisted tonight, as Rick has said in the chat as well. So, yeah, just your thoughts on, I guess, Semenyo, we've maybe already shared your thoughts about anyway. So, but Porro and Lewis, they're players I'd love to see what you think about.
Yeah, Porro is fine. I think you can probably do better with that third defensive spot being a City one. I'm assuming
So you prefer Guardiola or Lewis there. And I guess then the next question is, if it's not Porro, like Porro is fine, but you'll be losing or sacrificing maybe your Guardiola. But what if you can fit Porro and you also had one of these guys? So what if you have Porro and like Lewis instead of Guardiola? Like Porro, Lewis, and Gabriel or something. No Trent.
Well, I'm kind of assuming here that you have Gabriel and then either Robertson or Trent as your kind of first two defenders, and then you're looking for your third.
So this is the
premium
third
guy,
one
and then you're going to have like in your case, two 4.0s, and then I would
like,
choose
and then
Phil
like
in a
Lewis
4.0.
or Conte, yeah.
Yeah. So then for that kind of third premium spot, I think Guardiola just beats Porro. I think the City fixtures and IC should be pretty nailed for now because of the Ake injury, sorry.
Oh yeah, so Aki's not around for a while, that's true.
And then yeah, Lewis, I don't know. I think it's a difficult one to have a min's read on, and it's one where the min's read is basically the whole like choice. So if you think he's going to play a bunch of minutes, he's obviously a great pick. He's like under 5 million, and he's a City defender. Even if he gets no attacking returns, he's still probably a good pick at that price if he gets minutes.
You prefer him over Porro the way you prefer Guardiola over Porro.
But the big caveat is like if he gets minutes,
yeah,
and
you don't want to make that decision or prediction of those minutes on behalf of anyone else. That's fair.
Yeah, and it's part of the reason that like it's part of like it makes wildcarding now kind of tough because you're kind of forced into these decisions after like seeing 5 game weeks of information, and then you see like some particular circumstances and you try to like read into this and that, and it's kind of tricky, and it's a guy that I would probably avoid for now. But it's also part of the reason why I don't love wildcarding like this early. You kind of haven't really figured out all of the rhythms of
you
the
don't
season
quite
yet.
know what you want to do yet, and you're being forced to make that decision for the long term, especially if you want to roll, as you say.
Yeah, I mean, you have lots of get out options. There's lots of like decent 4.5s if it goes wrong, but you have to use transfer, and that's annoying.
Fair enough. So we got this other question. Oh yeah, go on.
What do you think on Lewis? You're like tempted, but not
I am tempted. No, because I have Konsa. I guess if we go back to where my team was at, I could see that being like Lewis. But then Diaz is what's uncertain for me because I'm not really sure about that one. And then Smith Rowe I could sell, and I'm not really keen on Calvert-Lewin and Jackson. So like one of those could become Solanke. If I had like say Palmer instead of Diaz, I could see a world where Jackson becomes like just like a 4.5.
I gotta say, having Lewis instead of Konsa in that team is just it's inviting like a bunch of
because of the 4 million defenders. But what if they weren't 4 million defenders? That's the thing.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I think you need to balance the structure a little bit if you do that, because you need a better fourth defender to cover the minutes risk, basically.
Yeah, no, I get that. But what if it was like this, right? So you have Havertz, you have Lewis, you don't have Raya. Let's just go for Sanchez for now. There's talk of Edison in the live chat, but feel free to comment on Edison plus Saliba versus Raya and Guardiola, and then basically not worrying about City or Arsenal defense. I think for me, I'd still go Sanchez over Edison, but so I've got 5.1 here. So if I do Raya to Sanchez, Jackson to Havertz, then that 4 million person.
Why don't you go? If you're thinking about Porro and like the nice run from Gameweek 8, why don't you get Udogie?
For me, not so much, but I can see what you mean. Actually, 5 million. I guess after Man United, even maybe with Man United, because maybe Bruno will find a way to dodge you points yet again, Simon. Maybe despite that, we'll
probably
a pretty good run, From to be fair, from game week 7 through to game week 11, it's not bad, but I don't really want the Spurs players, as you can see. If I was gonna pick one, I'd pick Solanke or Porro and
Is that
Son.
just your Arsenal bias?
It is. Otherwise, I would have Solanke maybe over Havertz. So maybe I would go double Arsenal defense plus Solanke, like you suggested in the draft. But for me, I really want Havertz and Saka for the next two. And as you were saying, that would probably be my preferable Arsenal three. And I had a lot of questions before from mates that are messaging me. They're saying, look, I'm going to have Gabriel. I'm going to have Saka. I don't really feel Raya or Saliba. Who would you get? And they're asking me, would you get Kai? Would you get Jesus? Would you get Martinelli? Or would you get Trossard in the next two? And for those next two, I'm just thinking about them myself. I'm going to see who plays tomorrow. That's why my free on my wild wasn't even set. It's just like a price catch of like, in case I have a Jackson, in case I have a DCL, in case I have any of these players, Diaz, I've caught the 0.1 on the way. But I'm not going to just pick them ultimately for that reason. Do you know what I mean? So I like playing it like this, like a loose hand, see how the midweek games go. No, anything could change at any time, right? And again, like the Rodri injury, I'm like, oh, okay, Lewis, maybe that helps. I know Stones is there too now, but it still potentially helps his minutes. So then I look at all that. I look at Walker, how he's getting done by Gabriel. So then I'm like, okay. So I'm trying to like find the things. Like I look at Havertz. I'm like, everyone's put off. Arsenal have played 20% of their season so far with 10 men. In their like data, all the underlying metrics mean absolutely nothing because like they've spent most of the game not attacking.
Well, I tweeted about this earlier actually on my like non-FPL account, and we looked at some numbers last week which adjusted for the kind of like difficulty of your opponents, red card, and penalties, which I have from my model, and Arsenal didn't really move that much from the City game in that kind of performance this season. It's looked like a bit iffy first 4 games, still looks a bit iffy after 5 games. I think they went from like 0.32 plus to 0.26. Obviously, it's only 5 games, so we shouldn't read too much into it. But if you adjust properly for these things, like what they did against City being down at 10 men, and you take all that context into account, it doesn't. Actually, the underlyings don't look so crazy, but you do need to do the adjustments.
Yeah, you need to like make because like right now they have probably like the third least possession in the league. And I'm seeing like fans on like big football accounts, like going on big national shows, using narratives and just running each week's like media headlines that will sell. And it's madness. Like I saw one by The Athletic today. I always trusted their journalism. And I saw an article today where they were describing the first goal Arsenal scored, and it was like a completely different like incident. They were like, oh yeah, like Martinelli's cross got deflected and then like bounced back to Calafiori, and on the rebound he scored. And I'm thinking like, did they watch the same game? Were they like using AI to write the match report? Like what is going on? And in the same game, they were implying that an Arsenal player had deliberately caused Rodri's ACL. And I was like baffled because like they were like running side on and he was on his left leg and his ACL went on his right leg. And it was like a standard normal game of football. Like, and then suddenly like they went around blocking everyone who asked about it. I think the article got deleted off The Athletic eventually. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, is this all it is? Just whoever can get shit out the quickest. Even the journalism that I really thought was amazing and paid for when it first came out has turned into this race to the bottom of like driving clicks and outrage. And so it's crazy that through this FPL community, we met Simon and ended up doing a podcast together. But that's the beauty of it. Despite all the craziness on X and all the madness we're seeing, we can all laugh at each other's FPL picks.
Indeed. Do you want to laugh at some of my crazy ideas now?
Yeah, let's do it. So yeah, I think this team I would be much happier with, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Like, but I don't see the reality is, would you then get a Palmer? So you remember what I said about if I've sold the Jackson? I'll just quickly show you if this how far from affordable this is. Yeah, that's quite far. This is where the Stewart conversation must have come in. I think this is the draft that I'd thought about that I told you but never showed. So this one is still short, right? It requires a 3.9 million goalkeeper this week to happen, and maybe even a 3.9 million defender, and I guess Greaves instead of Faze. I'll just leave you with that thought, and then you show me your craziness. Let's see this.
I don't think you're going to be able to afford this, bro.
3.8. No, it's close, man. It's really close.
It's close.
It's Smith Rowe. It's Semenyo to run up. Yeah, that's not going to help. I need to drop someone. It would have to be like Trent to Porro, I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
not happy about that.
yeah. Trent to Robbo could work.
No, I think Palmer's the problem here. This is where I
Yeah,
then need, right, someone like
Fernandez.
Foden to become an option and not Fernandez.
Fernandez solves all your problems.
This is where I need to go triple Arsenal and
You could
triple
go.
City,
You
double
could
attack on
go.
both.
You could go Fernandez and
Okay, so Fernandez and like a 5
you
mil.
could
No,
yeah,
don't say
or no, a 6 mil. You could put Robertson in there and double up Liverpool defense.
yeah, but then I'm always gonna bench Lewis or Gabriel, and it's like I can't be spending money in defense like
Yeah,
that for me.
or you bench like two, or you bench one of Semenyo and Rogers. So then that's where you got your extra bench cover.
That is true. I guess here I'm just looking at this like ideally Foden would become Palmer, or Salah, but then obviously it's a major sacrifice need to be made there. Like the Havertz slot needs to be like the 6 million, like the Wood
Yeah,
slot. Yeah, there's a big drop then, and you want to go back to maybe double defense.
yeah, and probably even more than that. Or
So
unless you
you
put another
wouldn't go
4.0.
Foden. You say you wouldn't go Foden, but
I
he
wouldn't go
started
Foden with.
tonight.
I wouldn't go Foden with Haaland because I
Not both.
think
Okay.
because Saka is the most essential of the kind of 9 to 11 mil mids.
So you go Fernandez. Okay, let's have a look at this. And then you're saying there's 6 million left.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, the thing is, I'd still rather have a better third forward than a 6 million defender in this situation when there's like defenders like Conser I'm willing to have. So like,
Well, yeah, that's
Stewart,
fine.
plus-
But
yeah,
then you
that's
could
the
put
thing.
in like Calvert. You could put in Wood and Conser, right?
Yeah, go back to those guys. Well, I didn't have Wood. I had Calvert Lewin, but yeah,
But yeah,
Wood or
but I think
Calvert
it
Lewin
works.
plus
Oh no,
one.
yeah, maybe Conser's gone up 0.1 or whatever. But you're close.
But I think I have him
Depends on-
from the start in it. Oh no, he's still the same
Oh,
price as
nice.
well.
Oh, you're still the same. Oh,
So
Dunk's gone up
0.0 million for this. See, I think I prefer this to Jackson and DCL. I think I prefer Havertz and Wood. But yeah, that's just. I guess this is where the closest to where I would land, but I'm not happy about Bruno. So this is the closest where I would land if I fully took your opinion. But the thing is, this is also probably quite far from anything you would ever suggest. The only thing you've managed to squeeze in is probably Bruno.
It's not too far off.
Okay, I'm gonna screenshot this team. It's actually better than I was expecting. It's something that I would like, and it's not as risky as usual. There's only Greaves and not so many problems. But I don't like Bruno in that. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're not going to pick Bruno.
I'm just not going to.
It's fun to entertain it. Yeah,
at least I make you feel like I'm willing to listen to your idea.
No, but I know it's false. I know it's insincere, don't I? I know there's no chance.
It's the same Spurs bias I have, isn't it? But it's just like I would love someone like, let's be honest, like if I knew one of Diallo or Garnacho was the one who was starting every week. So at some point this season, I'll try and be there for them as well. And then Savio is another one that I wanted to ask about. So Foden was quite expensive, but I don't want to pay 9.3 million when I got Haaland and take those risks. But I'm willing to go on, Lewis and Savio. And I looked at that and I was like, Savio sounds a lot more exciting than Bruno, and he's nearly 2 million cheaper than him.
Yeah, so but it's how much he's going to play, right?
But I think if I look at the next weeks, and then this is where the X minutes thing comes in. As unfortunate as it is in this game now, if there's games where City are the 12:30 or the 3 o'clock on a Saturday, you can be pretty confident any major FPL asset, if they're a good enough one, there might be news about. And some of it will be wrong, and you can't trust the reliability of these leaks, and loads of accounts fake it.
Leaks are fine. That are right. But the problem is, even if they're fine, you have to spend transfers, and transfers have value.
No, if I don't sell them, because this is the situation where I'd bench them.
No, I know. But then you're... Okay, yeah, if you have enough
cover, I heard the leak, that's what if I heard Savio starts, I'll play him this week, but I actually start the week with him on the bus team on the bench if I don't think he starts. So I do it.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I think that if I look at the games, right, just have a quick look. Man City's the 12:30 this week. So before I even lock in the wild card, I might know if Savio starts. So it's like that extra news of knowing, okay, he starts away at Newcastle. Not the greatest game, but people are captaining Haaland this week. And if Savio starts, why not? He just got his first assist for him. He's arrived. He's ready to go. Like Foden starting right now. Let's see how many minutes he plays. But most of the teams starting tonight don't look to me like the A team that played like 2 days ago on Sunday. It's only Tuesday.
I agree.
The congestion is crazy.
And it has Lewis in it.
I know. So it's bad for both of them. But that's also because I guess Lewis didn't even get on to the pitch. Yeah, so he's got to at least
Anyway,
get match fit. But yeah, let's keep going with yours crazy team now, and then we'll say hi to a few people.
let's talk about free hit 9.
Free hit 9. Yeah, let's talk about that. So show us what you're thinking.
Okay, so the basic idea is if you have a Salah draft, like I do, I've been Salah all year, but a lot of people who now made the transfer from Haaland to Salah last week will also essentially be in a Salah draft. And you kind of want to be on Haaland for 7 and 8. You really want to be on Haaland for 9. And then you really don't want to be on Haaland for 10. It's kind of the basic like outline of how I see it. And some people are going to look at me like, no, you just want Haaland all the time. That's fine. We'll just gloss over that difference for now. And so if you kind of sign up to that like structure, you can do a few things. You can either go, I'm going to use free transfers to get Haaland in for 9. So either spend them in 7 or in 9. And then I'm going to use free transfers to get him out in 10. So it's like 4 free transfers. Maybe you can do a bit of like a couple of other players or whatever, but 4 transfers. Or you can wildcard in 9 or 10 and spend free transfers on the other side. You still have to spend like 2 free transfers. So you kind of save 2. You fix up the rest of your team, blah, blah, blah. But if you free hit in 9, you don't need to use any free transfers on either side. Because you're going back to the Salah draft for 10 afterwards. And so that's kind of what a free hit is for when you want your team to stay the same, but you want to be different for 1 week.
I like this.
This is a perfect example of like as good as that gets for single game weeks.
Yeah, like in terms of those swings, like in a single game. But alternatively, you were saying before, it's crazy how much your chips usage mind has changed just in a few weeks of episodes. Like you were thinking maybe triple captain in 9, potentially to bring in Haaland, but now it's almost like reverting to the team you had and getting rid of players and using a different chip.
Maybe I think it's just an option at this point.
It's a thought.
It's not.
Yeah,
it's not one I need to commit to now. It's not one I even need to commit to next week.
It's still a while away. Yeah, when's game week 9? You've got time to think about it. See a lot more information. It's Friday, the 25th of October.
The first time I would need to make a different transfer is game week 8.
Nice. Yeah, so that's the 19th of October. So that's after an international break as well. So there's obviously the international break, second one in October.
Yeah, so I can kind of just like follow the plan until then, and then like when I get to game week 8, then I have to do some thinking and deciding. If I wildcarded in 10, for example, I could still triple captain in 9. It's still possible because you could use free transfers, get Haaland in, triple captain, wildcard out. Obviously, if I wildcard in 9, I couldn't because you can't play 2 chips in the same week. So, like, yeah, I'm not convinced on triple captain. That's still just a thought. I'm not convinced on free hit. It's still just a thought. I'm not convinced on wildcard 9 or 10 either. I might use free transfers. Might skip Haaland altogether. There's like all the possibilities
so much
open.
This is I feel like this is the dooms of chaos. Like for the first few weeks, you were ahead of me in OR. I was like staying stagnant on the same rank with my whole story about trying not to ever drop with the EO, but then like barely dropping and then like stagnating for like weeks at a time. And then just lurking, right? Like the bottom feeders and the ocean and the deep blue. I was there waiting for you, Simon. And I just creeped up on you and slowly tried to overtake you as you had a couple of now you've gone into like the mode where you're like anything is possible, and I'm like committed. I'm like fully I can't even go back. I've pressed the button. It's not like I've even
Yeah, you're done.
Yeah, I'm fully committed.
You shot your shot. Like
I've gone now. Whatever happens. Like the players I pick on it will maybe have ultimately good or bad, and that's the main thing I wanted to get to. Actually, it's funny you maybe go in this direction, but there's people who wildcard in game before and had good so far, and people who had bad so far. There's people who roll transfers.
Same with game week 1 as well, right?
It's the same for everything, right? People who bench boosted in game week 1 and it went well or it didn't go well. People who triple captain in game week 2 went well or it didn't. So it's like anything is possible, and I think we shouldn't get too worried about did a strategy overall win? Like did free hit 9 or triple captain 9 or wildcard 9 end up being the winner? Because for every person, just making the chip decision like I have now, committing to it, only just changes one of your paths. It's like you're split into 2 universes now, right? But now the 15 players I pick, all of them are also separate universes. So there can be people who maybe wildcard in a better week theoretically than me, but he might pick all the worst players or get really unlucky, and mine might go the other way. So for each individual, how your season goes and when you use the chips doesn't have to marry up. But yeah, that's my main point anyway. So it's funny, at least the alarm went off as I finished. So
No, I agree. I think what's quite interesting is if you use solvers and you use sensitivity analysis, then you can kind of look at like how much you're like often the squads appear, and you kind of notice like over time, it's like the squad you have now and like the obvious transfers will get to like 80%, like then you get to like 50%, and by you get like 4 weeks on, like nothing is over like 2%. Like you could be literally anywhere because shit just happens, and like that's the beauty of FPL. So I kind of love this like part of the season that I'm in where I could use chips in maybe like 9 or 10 or 12 or 13 for wildcard. Maybe later it could be like 18, looks potentially nice. Like they're all kind of open possibilities. And so I'm kind of trying to plan like, okay, well, what's the best move if I wildcard in 9? What's the best move if I wildcard in 10?
the
What's the best
sooner
move
you
if I wildcard
commit,
in
the sooner
12?
you can go fully into that strategy now against others who've maybe gone
Yeah,
for a different route.
but I kind of go the opposite way. I kind of go, well, if there's a strategy that requires me to make a move now in order to get the value, like I'm gonna give that strategy a bit less value, because if I can like stay on 3 tracks at once, it's more valuable than just like staying on one if
So
they're
you're
quite
trying to
close.
find a way to prolong it till game week 8, that decision, but that's when you then
Yeah,
need to decide. Okay,
because every week you're kind of getting more information, right? You're getting information about minutes, you're getting people get injured, people get suspended, like fixtures change, you get more information about team strength. Like all of these things are happening. So every week that you wait, you're in a better position to pick the best players. And then you weigh that up against like the fixture swings and like getting team value early and the extra weeks that you get with that team and all this kind of stuff as to like when you should work hard. But yeah, it's not obvious. For my team, like I said, I went with the Salah team initially to save transfers. I think the team looks really good for game week 6. I mean, this might be a good segue into just having a
yeah,
look at
let's
my
have a
team.
look. Yeah, let's go through yours.
So this is what my team looks like before any free transfers. So I have Raya in goal, Porro, Trent, and it will be Gabriel on the pitch. And then Fernandez, Eze, Salah, Minter, and Saka. And Pedro and Solanke up front, and the bench has 4.0 keeper Bentley, Feist, Dunk, and Muniz. So I look at this and I'm like, okay, 3 free transfers, 0.9 in the bank, freed up by that Isaac to Solanke move last week. Muniz is obviously a problem. He's dropped, and he's probably not going to get the spot back like we talked about last week. So he's got to go.
And it's gotten worse. Like since then, Jimenez scored again, right? So it just keeps getting worse for him.
So what I've done is I've put in Archer as my one transfer that I've gone early on. And I went early with the thought that Muniz was predicted to drop 2 nights in a row. He hasn't. It's fine.
He will drop though. It's just obviously you wish you'd had more time. But you also like that it's not transparent. I love it.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have more time to kind of think about the decision. I kind of just rushed it on Sunday night, and I was
And
like,
you have
okay,
2 more
well,
free transfers, so it's like like you can't really. There's nothing to worry about.
Exactly. And then the other free transfer is going to be Minter to Mbemo.
So you
So
freed
then
up
you
the
end
money
up,
for it.
yeah, exactly. So the Isak to Solanke and the Minis to Archer move both free up the money to then do Mbemo, and then that's it really. And then that's the team. It looks pretty
It's good to
strong for
go.
this.
Yeah.
Pretty strong for this week, right? Like I have a lot of the main pieces that people want on wildcard. I have triple Arsenal, Raya, Gabriel, Saka. I have Trent.
Yeah.
I
Mobama
have
as well.
Eze and Mbeme. I have Pedro, Solanke.
They're all core players. Yeah. Pedro is a bit
Yeah,
more debatable because of if you
because of the
believe in the
injury.
photo, right? Like they're saying he played like injured in the second half or whatever, and then now there's a photo of him playing FIFA, and there's like crutches behind the TV.
Yeah, I think if Pedro's injured, I'll just play Archer for 1 week and hope it's not too serious.
I
If
just
it's
hope
a
not. But
serious
if it's
injury, then
serious, then you got to use another transfer.
Yeah, if it's serious, you've got to use another transfer, and maybe that forces like an earlier wild card, maybe in 9, maybe in 7.
So things could change if a few injuries mount up, I guess, and if let's say international break, like if Bruno, Saka, all of them got injured, like suddenly everything looks different. You need to redistribute funds.
Yeah, for sure. Like if there's a bunch of injuries that you can't get a good team out for this week, then for sure it could bring the wild card forward, and that's part of why I like holding it.
Fair
Is
enough.
you just have that optionality to. You kind of know that like at some point you're going to get like a bunch of bad injury luck, and at some point it's going to be more than you can fix with your transfers because you're like kind of have them earmarked for other stuff you need to do. And when that happens, I'll hit the wild card basically. But it hasn't happened yet. I can use 2 out of 3. I can get, I think, a better team for this week than I would have on my wild card. Just because you're going to pick some like longer term picks on your wild card, whereas here I'm kind of, it's just quite nicely set up for this week, and then you lose a bit later.
Yeah, no. I
So
think, I think
there's really no point in wildcarding this at all. I don't think right now.
No,
And
there
then
isn't.
I'll have another look in 7 and see if it looks decent then.
So I think this is a good segue as well into this exact conversation from Martin Heeden as well, saying, I feel like I've been missing something with Wildcard 6. Is there a reason Game Week 7 is less viable? And also, hi all, this is my no Haaland therapy safe space. So at least both of you are in that boat together. But yeah, what do you think about this comment about like Game Week 7 being just as viable?
I think 7 is quite viable. I think it's very team dependent. So, like you said, this is his no Haaland therapy safe space. And so, from my team is obviously pretty similar. For me, Wildcard 7 comes out not badly at all. It gets Haaland in 7, obviously, and then you have him as slightly better captain in 7 and 8 than Saka, Salah. But it's not huge, and it depends a little bit on who else you have in your team. Like, are you unable to get to some of the major pieces for 6 and 7? But it comes out nicely. But if you have Haaland in your team, there's not a lot of point in wildcarding in 7, I don't think.
Fair.
Because if you have Haaland in your team, you probably don't have triple Arsenal already, and therefore you're going to just miss out on the really nice fixture against Leicester this week.
Yeah, so I guess in terms of what the Game Week 6 is for, is because like I committed, right? I think it's basically like by getting the players I did when I did, by doing Isaac out and going all the way for this plan that I had, right? I kind of committed myself to this wildcard because I do have Haaland, I do have Salah, and I don't have any Arsenal, right? Because I sold Saka, I sold Isaac, sold them both. Yeah, so with that,
and you only started with Saka, right?
Yeah, only Saka. So I this was always my plan. So unlike maybe many of the people who I guess you could say sold 2 Arsenal players, I think the non-Haaland teams were more likely to have had Raya and an Arsenal defender to start with as well. So I feel like in that situation, like my team was like, I just went Saka, and like I pre-committed at this point that like I was probably going to get Salah at some point, and I didn't and then I did it. And then, as I mentioned, I was trying to focus on team value this season as well. But it didn't quite go to plan, really, because Saka's returned in every game so far this season. Salah, obviously, I got a captaincy out of him, but didn't beat Haaland's captaincy this week, for example. So, yeah, overall, I'm like, well, now I'm basically wildcarding to get back to get 2 more Arsenal players, maybe to move Salah and redistribute funds, to change Muniz, to change Pedro, to change Gordon, to change Haaland, Marco, to change Jota. Like, there's a lot of problems in the team. So for me personally, for my team, like, I had to change this. Like, I got 77 points. It masks it. Like, my green arrow masks that, like, I need to fix the team. But equally, I could have not wildcarded. I could have used 2 transfers. So I see what Martin's saying, but I do understand as well why is there such a big hype that this is the correct week. I don't think there is, and that's why I was saying the earlier comments about whatever week you do it, it could go well or badly for you. What's a wrong week for everyone else might be a great week for you, because maybe every other person on wildcard, like 800,000 of them, fuck up, and you're the one person who doesn't, and now you've gone against both all the other wildcarders and everyone who didn't wildcard. That alone could get you into like a top 1K triple digit finish for the season in that one moment.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for your team, you had too many game week 1 fires to not wildcard at this point, given that you'd already made the committal moves. I
And I
agree
used
with you.
transfers, right? So it's not like I had 3-4 transfers like you had. I'd been using transfers while other fires happened. I made luxury moves between assets who all played and returned.
Yeah, exactly. So you had 0 Arsenal and 2 transfers, and no Burmo, and a bunch of pretty iffy assets to fix as well. So you probably just had a bit too much to do. Whereas I think, for mine, I can kind of get through with these 2 out of 3, and then the team looks pretty decent. I will need it later on though, for sure. But yeah, I agree with you. It very much depends on your team as to when you need to wildcard. And I think the reason that wildcard 6 is popular is it's a good spot for a team that was quite a popular structure.
I guess that makes sense. You're right. It's just kind of there's wild cards that you feel like you're changing everything, and then there's wild cards at mine where there's a lot of problems, but I could have maybe persisted with some transfers, but I wanted to have the transfers. I thought, let me try this new thing we have this season where I can roll them, and instead of using them now, let me just wild
Yeah, but
card.
you only had
Maybe
2
wild card will
anyway.
work.
You only had 2. You didn't really have enough.
Yeah, no, but I know
Because
that's what I mean. Like, what was I going to fix? I was telling you last week about, oh, what about a -4 mini wildcard? And you were like, Nima, as soon as you're thinking about that hit, just please wildcard.
yeah, just that, man.
So I think, to be fair, you did tell me that. Just I want to quickly add a couple of comments here as we go because there's a few bits as well. So JP, Torre Caliber, good to see you, mate. Says JP could well be out for weeks. I hope not. And then also Arsenal got Southampton at home game week 7. Not as big of a need for Haaland as in game week 9. And then just a couple other comments. So Tiggy Taylor was saying, yes, free hit 9, I'm in. So I know you were thinking about free hitting in a prior week too. So you're already a Maverick free hitter as it stands.
Yeah. And I know we talked about that last week, didn't we?
Yeah, the free hit.
Tiggy's really keen to use the free hit.
I love it.
He hates looking at it.
She.
Sorry.
I guess, to be fair, how would you have known? But I know Tiggy's been watching Locked In as well. So one of our key holders on the channel.
My bad.
Yes, he protecting the key holders. We'll lock you in as well, Simon, if you get it wrong. But just this question from Rick. What do you guys think of the structure with Gabriel and 4 other defenders that are all 4.5 or roughly like 4.5, I guess, like Konsa, Lewis, maybe you stretch to a Udogi, like you said. But I guess that's a bit far from 4.5, to be fair. But yeah, like, would you go with that kind of structure? I'm assuming it would allow Rick like a really strong midfield and forward line, but
it allows you a beefy midfield. But okay, so let's say you go for that structure of Gabriel and 4 4.5s versus 3 6.0s, a 4.5 and a 4. You only actually save 2.5 million.
okay.
Because you've saved $1.5 million on 2 players, and then okay, let's say you downgrade a 4.5 to 4.0, gets you half back. And what you can do with 2.5 million in your midfield and forward line is pretty good. You could upgrade a 4.5 to a Semenyo and upgrade a Wood to a Solanke instead of having 2 premium defenders. But I don't know. I think the premium defenders look like good value to me.
I like them. Yeah, you're right. Like, even if I didn't have Trent, it would then be like Guardiola and Gabriel. But I'm definitely gonna have Gabriel. So I think we all agree with that with Rick.
Yeah.
That's the part. I think it seems like it's just I can't, as an Arsenal guy, I can't not have him. Just knowing that I'm gonna be at every home game this season, and just if he scores again, which I'm confident he will, because he has the most goals for a centre back in Europe since 2020. He underperforms his XG on the goals as well. I remember he averages 5 XG per season for goals in the Prem since he arrived. And then some seasons he'll get 3 or 4 goals, but get others in cups as well. So it masks it. And people looking at the FPL stats, oh, Nima, you told me he's going to get 5 goals this season. He got 3. I'm like, oh, but he's scored in other competitions, man. It just depends on the luck of the draw. We've just missed 2 in quick succession. Everyone who thought they'd wait. You had him.
I benched it both times.
Oh, both.
But I think they were both good decisions. I'm not gonna lie. Come on, it's I had better options in 4, and it's City away.
What about FPL discomfort? Good to see you, buddy. Fernandez final third passing is an all-time low this season, and his ball striking is mistimed. So this just sounds like this is like the classic. Something has changed in what we knew of the Bruno of old. And is it possible that could we forbid I say it, like say someone's regressed? I don't think so, because of what I see in the international break for Portugal. So just kind of seeing that, like, the players there, like, obviously, like Ten Hag, like, I don't think he will survive the season. But I said that last year. I was like, he's gonna be gone by Christmas. I said it so many times, it didn't happen. He's won the League Cup, he's won the FA Cup, and like, it's all good. He says he's the second most successful team in England. He's enjoying his, I guess, zero or negative goal differences for full length seasons and stuff, and he's happy as he is. But I just don't see how Man United, as an ownership and the fan base, will allow that to keep happening. Because at some point, like, these are all players he bought. So many of them played for him. I can't understand this idea of like, oh, we just can't do it. And then every once in a while, like, they go to a League Cup game against, was it Barnsley? And they take a photo and they're like, oh, it's like they're playing Barcelona. And then you go back to the realities of the football, and then I get my Henderson 9-pointer. No offense, obviously, any Man United fans who are listening. I'm just saying, like, I feel like you probably would agree that you don't really see Ten Hag as going to be the guy to take you to that next level and rebuild the club. So at some point, he'll be gone this season. And I just added that to the comment from, I guess, FPL discomfort on Fernandez. So Fernandez is a player I'm not concerned about. The reason I don't have him, I guess, Simon, is just more Man United and just my views on, like, Ten Hag's ability as a coach.
Yeah, okay. I think let's have a look at this and like break it down, because I think there's a couple of things here. The first is we need to decide which metrics are important before we look at the data. And if I was to tell you, like, this player is really good because their passes into the final third is amazing, or their passes into penalty area is amazing, you'd like look at me and you'd be like, why are you using that stat and not the other ones that we know are more predictive?
Is I finding the
Right?
one negative stat. So for me, yeah, I see
Exactly.
entries in the final third when I compare two players some weeks, and there's never one that I really decide on. Like if two players are very similar, but I know Bruno's other stats are better than other players, so they can't be similar.
Okay, so let's just break it down for Bruno. So, like, yeah, it's true. His passes into the penalty area are the thing which are most down this year compared to other years. There's nothing else which is really like lower than other years, but his shots are up. His XG is up. His like XA in terms of like pass forwards models is like pretty much in line with what it has been in previous seasons. And then I'm old enough to remember doing a Corridor of Uncertainty podcast episode, which was the therapy for not owning Bruno Fernandes while he kept going off at like 140% EO. So I've been on the other side of this argument where everyone's going, why don't you own Bruno? He's clearly and obviously outlier good finisher.
And you didn't
right?
have him for the whole thing, yeah.
And I'm like, he might be an okay finisher. Like, he might be a plus finisher. We have like a little bit of data that might suggest that, but like, I'm not confident enough to like bet my like FPL team on that. And now, a few years later, because the price has dropped, he's more popular for analytics, even though he's basically doing the same thing as he has been for like 4.5 years. And sometimes he finishes hot and sometimes he finishes cold. But he's pretty much put up like very, very similar underlying numbers for like 4.5 years. Like, we know what he is. The reason he's like become a bet I was going against 4 years ago to one now is he's 3 million cheaper.
It's the price that's changed for you.
That's what's different. And so to say his ball striking is mistimed, like, yeah, okay, his ball striking has been
all it
mistimed.
takes is like to get one, and then like that confidence that comes, and then you go on a run, you win games. Winning breeds confidence. Like, everything can change so quickly in football, and we know this. So you're betting that it will change.
It's the kind of thing that can only be said descriptively in this kind of sample. You can't say it predictively. You can say his ball striking has been mistimed, and that's true. But to say that means that his ball striking will continue to be mistimed for the rest of the season is not true.
Yeah, that's where maybe people like me and Kieran have put discomfort. Again, as Arsenal fans, maybe we just like don't like the guy and we're like, no, fuck him. Like we don't want this guy in our team. So
Well,
I
then
don't
just
know if
don't pick
that's
him. That's
part of the
fine.
reasoning.
You
Yeah,
don't,
yeah,
you don't
but it
have to
doesn't
pick
mean it's
him.
not a good pick. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to pick him. It's fine. Like you just pick who you want. It's have some fun. It's just FPL. Who cares?
This was Marty's question. I know he said he did a double question. He said, don't worry about asking again. He thought you were on wildcard, but he just said Haaland seems pretty good 7 to 9. What about wildcard 7 and transfer him out in 10? So I think that, like, if you can wildcard in 7 instead of 6, but equally, I think you said that, like, if you already had a Haaland team, then you weren't, and you already had the Arsenal players, maybe you wouldn't necessarily wildcard in 7, but otherwise you would maybe look at that. So yeah, I think that's
I
a
think we
fair
discussed
enough thing.
this. I think
Yeah, I
we
think we
discussed
did.
this. It's what we were talking about earlier. If you're on a Salah team, 7 is a viable spot. Depends on what the other pieces of your team look like.
Yeah. Cool. So I think this one as well, we got about our boy. So Torres says he's been passing out to the sides and to Xerxes, who drops low. Hoyland will make runs behind the final third. Bruno, an amazing pick still. So yeah, Torre agrees with you. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Please let us know in the chat, mate. How it's pronounced? Is it Torre? See, Simon don't try none of the names. He tries to avoid getting done. I'm the one who called a 3-letter name Eze. I remember the first podcast I was like easy, and then they all like looked at me and they're like, "What the fuck are you saying?" And I was like, "Easy E." So I just so I got that name wrong. And on the Arsenal one, yeah, with Clayton, whenever I say I'm gonna say it properly now, I understand, but when I say Ballon d'Or, I don't say that. I say to him Ballon. I'm like Ballon d'Or. Dior, like he's always like, "What are you saying?" He always just stops whatever topic we're having, however seriously, he just bursts into laughter and like we just lose our train of thought. So it's definitely
Ballon by Dior.
Ballon by
Like,
Dior,
it's,
Ballon Dior, yeah, Ballon Dior, and he's like, "No, Ballon d'Or." I'm like, "What, Ballon Dior?"
Jakes,
So yeah,
man.
it's tough, man. So I don't know. I see you not trying to put your neck out on the line and pronounce the viewers' names, not even names like Martin. You won't say.
No, I can't get Martin right. I always get it wrong.
I love it. But yeah, so good to see everyone who has been in the chat as well. So I'm enjoying this chat. Yeah, what are your thoughts on Torres' comment about just Hoyland being back? Obviously, subbed on. Do you think that like that changes dynamics? Like he thinks either way, like Bruno's a good pick, but Hoyland making those runs into the final third should
Yeah,
be a positive thing.
I think the thing about Bruno is that he's always just Bruno, right? He picks up the ball and he tries to spam the like highest value pass that he can, and like often it's pretty low probability pass, but this is what he does. He gets the ball and he spams it forward, and it means that in like a bunch of different iterations under a bunch of different managers with a bunch of different players around him, he's put up pretty similar numbers because usually somebody will run and he'll just try and spam. And he's about as successful on average, the same over like 4 seasons. And so I think, yeah, I haven't watched enough of Manchester United this season to have like strong views on their tactical like changes from previous season. But I think Bruno is one of those picks where we've seen him in lots of different systems with lots of different people looking pretty much the same in terms of his underlying numbers. And that makes me feel good about him as a pick, kind of like
I
whether
guess you
they're
saw me trying
poor
to
or
fit in
good as a team.
Palmer, right? You saw me trying to fit in Palmer and Salah, and Bruno feels like that kind of talismanic level pick for his team across all of those things, and it's like so much cheaper. So yeah, maybe that is the thing. Maybe that draft. Oh yeah, now you've reminded me that random draft I took a screenshot of when we were right at the beginning of the episode. I was like, oh, I'm not sure and all this, and I was like, you fucking Bruno-fied it. Now I go back and I look at it with the 0.0 million in the bank, and I'm like, that looks pretty bad, boy. You know, like having Haaland, Havertz, Saka, Semenyo, Rogers, Mbuemo, Bruno, Trent, Lewis, Gabriel, Consa, Greaves, Sanchez, and then I've got Wood in this slot. The reason I didn't read his name out is because he's just there, but it's probably more. I don't know. It could be anyone
It's
else.
not a bad team, man. It's not a bad team. I don't know. Give it some thought. I'm curious to know what you land on. We can chat about it next week.
That's very close to what I'm just looking at it now, and I'm like, it's just brutal. Because in my head, I'm like, okay, like what else could I do with this money, right? Like if Bruno was cheaper, Lewis could be Guardiola. That's one thing, right? Or could be Porro. The other thing, And you know what? Actually, I'll show it on the screen because we're probably going to be getting out of here relatively soon anyway. We'll do any other comments in the chat, guys. Do get your questions in if you have any other questions for us. But about an hour 15 in, so I always try to stick to an hour, but that never really does happen.
Yeah. But let's get out of here soon for sure.
Yeah. Let me just show this one thing, which is the screenshot I took. I think that's worth a little look.
Okay, what? Yeah, let's have a look.
Because this screenshot was, I'm actually surprised now. We made this just like messing around earlier and probably pretty close to what I would land on, you know. So here we go. I think this is it. Yeah, so this was the team. And I kind of look at this and I'm like, okay, this is like Bruno plus Wood instead of Palmer plus 4.5, roughly.
Basically,
Something
yeah.
along that. Yeah, that's basically what these two teams are. So now what do I prefer?
It doesn't quite work. You need
No, it
to make
doesn't quite
one more.
work. It's still more expensive, isn't it?
You need to make one more sacrifice for Palmer because Wood down to 4.5 gives you 9.9.
It would have to be Havertz down to like Jackson or Havertz down to even cheaper Solanke.
Yeah, you couldn't get Jackson, I don't think.
No, it could be Trent down to Saliba and get rid of Havertz for that Jackson or Solanke.
Yeah. But there needs to
there's
be one
moves
more
around. There's always one more sacrifice.
There's one more to do to get to Palmer and 4.5. But yeah. Anyway, what you were saying about this team?
So this team, when I look at this is so close to what I've got. It's just I feel like I need to be sold more on Man United. Do Man United have a game? Are they playing tonight? Do they play tomorrow? Like I need to have a look, man. This is
they play Europa League this week.
Okay.
It's Europa League week.
Or qualifier.
No.
You're actually Europa League. Yeah.
Because you know how they turned the first 2 weeks of European competition into Bake Off, where they do Champions League week, European League week.
Tottenham 26th is playing as well. Okay, they're playing 2 days against Karabag. What about Man United? What they say? Are you sure they're? No, bro. Didn't they like finish like 10th? Oh, I think they got a cup game, but I don't know about. Okay, yeah, fair enough. I guess they won. What does the FA Cup get you Europa, or did they finish 6th in the end?
They won the FA Cup.
The FA Cup, but does that get you Europa?
Yeah.
I'm just looking now. 29.
They play 20 tomorrow.
20, yeah, 20. I'm just looking at the predicted lineup as well. Højlund, Rashford, Bruno. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how strong they'll go, but we'll see.
I'll keep an eye on them. If we see something interesting from Bruno with Højlund and Højlund starts, and then it looks like Højlund's going to start again. Because you know what it is? I look at Tottenham at home, and like the traditional me would think of that, oh, it's bad, it's against the big six, all this. And then I'm like, you know what? Like Tottenham have had good underlying numbers as well defensively this year. So I also see that side of it. But they're not keeping clean sheets. So part of me is like, ooh,
yeah,
everyone's dropping off Bruno.
They had bad underlying numbers last year defensively, and then good so far this year. So we'll see. But
we'll see.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll join you. Maybe you've somehow sucked me in on a wild card to get Bruno. and like it's like the one analytics part of my team. Because I'm looking cheap.
This is gonna be such a like funny thing if because this is a guy that like a lot of analytics people are struggling to pick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're looking at it and like it's really difficult to kind of overcome the human urge to be like, oh, but he's just not getting points. He's just not getting, I just can't do it. And so it'd be very funny if I talk you into Bruno and like a bunch of like pretty hardcore review users just choose to ignore it. I would love it. I think do it, man. I think it'll be fun. It'll be good.
Well, right now I have Diaz, so I guess for me I got to think about, do I want him over Luis Diaz? Because I could have the team in the screenshot we just shared and have Luis Diaz instead, if I believed that for a short term he might cover Salah, because that's the other thing to think about for me. So, and that's
it's just whether you think he gets like as many points as Bruno minus 0.7 mil, right? That's the question, or 0.4 mil even, or whatever it is.
So Bruno, okay, that's
And then the thing about Diaz is if you trust the minutes, yeah, it looks good. Fixtures Fixtures look good for the next 2, 8, 9.
I'm only really looking for the next
11, 13 is not not amazing. It's a pretty tough
10
run.
to 12 is good. If I had him, I'd maybe look to leave
I don't
by the
know.
time.
Brighton and Villa. I know they're both at home. They're not like easy teams though. They're both pretty decent. They're both
It's
top
just I
five
don't know
teams.
if he'd be starting by then, so that's where my mind's at. So I'm
Yeah,
just
there's a
kind of
bit of threat from
managing it.
Gakpo, right?
Yeah, and I think Gakpo was due to start one of the games as well,
Well, he
but when he
played
came
in
back from international
Champions League,
break,
right? Or no?
who?
Gakpo played in Champions League, I think.
Yeah. But before that, he was meant to play the Premier League game, but
Oh,
then
really?
he was
Got you.
tired when he came back. Yeah. So I think he was due to start even the Premier League game earlier. So it's kind
Oh,
of
in
like
game week
even like
4
players like
after the international
Jota.
break.
Yeah. Then he was due to start. So it's like his name's been there popping around. Like, oh shit. And then Darwin's now started one. So it's like bit by bit, I'm like, oh, I don't like Salah is the guy, but
Yeah,
like,
Salah
okay.
is the guy for that attack. Yeah.
So part of me is like, so do I then just go for Bruno instead of playing this Luis Diaz short-term punt just for these fixtures? And look at Wolves, Mosquera is out, and I'm like, fuck, I want to attack this wild card. I can't be siding with Simon and Bruno Fernandes. So I might get close to that screenshot. There might still be a Luis Diaz in there somehow. But
my prediction is that you're going to be on that screenshot until Friday night, and then you're going to have a beer, and then you're going to go, I'm not having Bruno Fernandes.
well, the good thing is I'm not on the screenshot yet, so I have to send it to myself to even remember that team because right now my team's still the price rise team. So it already has like Diaz, right? So I'll sell Diaz if I'm sure I'm not going to have him. So you're now relying on me to lose the 0.1 gain on Diaz and go to Bruno. So
Oh,
it's
but
going
only
to,
at the last minute.
yeah, it would be last minute. And also, I've told you I'm looking for Savio news. So that screenshot could very quickly change with Savio news too. Like the problem with Savio news is a lot would change because suddenly I have like 2 million more from Bruno. And it's like, oh, what do I do now? Then I've got to start like tinkering other positions that I thought were locked. So it starts to get very panicky. So I feel like I need to have like a team that I will stick with if there's no team news whatsoever. And then just be prepared that I know what I would do if Savio was starting and I heard.
Yeah, I think you just need to know what upgrades you want to make, right?
Yeah, I have to know. I can't be taking bets on that part as well. We'll take these last couple of questions and then get out of here, I think. So
Sweet.
what do we have? So a couple comments. Martin was saying Americans get Martin wrong, French get it wrong. I'm used to it. So we've got always do the Hollywood attempts, assists, and goals from anywhere. So DCL 90 minutes plus pens plus fixtures, baby. So he's also there for the price rise so far. So
Yeah,
I think
nice. He's
I
a
like
good
him.
pick.
I like him. I think right now I've got Jackson and Calvert Lewin. Obviously, you know I want Havertz, but if I was going to keep one of those two at this stage, I'm pretty sure it would actually maybe be Calvert Lewin, just because of the price saving and for the longer term to just have. So like something like Jackson to Havertz and keep Calvert Lewin instead of Wood in that screenshot. So that Wood screenshot, Wood would be the more short term one for me, and Calvert Lewin would be the longer term.
Well, like Wood also has like minutes and fixtures, right? Like he's kind of similar to DCL in that regard.
Does
It's
he
just a
have
question of
penalties
like
as
keep
well,
firm.
right? Because like
Yeah,
we thought
he
Morgan
scored the
Gibbs White
penalty.
had them, right? So it's the same
Well,
with the whole
no,
FA thing.
we don't know that Morgan Gibbs White had them. It was always a mystery.
It was always a mystery.
Because they hadn't been a penalty last season when they were both on the pitch.
Yeah, no,
And
fair enough.
so what we got confirmation that it's Wood, whereas before it was uncertain.
Yeah, cool. So we take this one. So just have you looked at Arsenal's attacking numbers as a whole? Yeah, it is bottom three. Yes, I think I was saying possession was like bottom three. So yeah, overall. But I'm not looking into that in 5 weeks with the
I think
red
it's 5
cards.
weeks. The 5 weeks haven't been amazing. Even in the games without the red cards, they were kind of below expectation. Something to keep an eye on, not something.
That's why I'm also not sure on the Raya on wildcard, right? So because people who aren't wildcarded
No, but
have him already.
Raya's not a big attacking threat, right? It's fine.
No, but as in like in the same sense, even people are saying their defense hasn't been as good. They're just lucky. So I'm like, okay. So I'm gonna go because I would like to think Raya has made 21 saves, I think. Well, no, 24 saves from 27 shots or something. You know how many saves Raya made last season? I heard it on a pod earlier.
Not many.
45 or something in the entire season. And by game week 5, he's already made 24. So I look at that and I think, okay, I will go with Mr. Kai Havertz instead of Raya. So in my mind, I'm I'm going against this. I'm going against this shit. Like, no way, bro. He's got a 91% save rate on the shots he's saved so far.
Yeah, he's not going to keep saving them at this rate, but he's probably not going to keep having to either.
That's the other thing. Arsenal didn't concede that many shots last year by this stage.
9 saves against City. I don't know. It's like 10 men against City. I don't know. It's like it's kind of crazy. And like I don't know, 3 against Brighton. He's made some saves elsewhere. I don't think they've been like massively like high XG chances though. So if that continues, it could make him even more valuable if he can pick up some save points.
What about Porro? I heard he isn't as attacking anymore.
Yeah.
Again, like 5 weeks. Like I don't want to overthink him. I had him up until now before the wildcard, right? So you still have him. I'm sure he's not on a list of players to sell in any time.
Like he could go. It's possible. Like it could be a place that I could free up 1 million, which could be necessary as part of like getting Haaland in and being able to get like a half decent midfielder in for Salah. But we'll see. I think he's fine. I wouldn't read too much into the attacking numbers, like you say, in 5 games. They're a little bit down on last year. I haven't watched enough of Spurs to know if there's like a particular system change. Again, if you have and there is, and you want to make that bet, that's absolutely fine. It's not something that I know about, so I'm not going to make that bet. But yeah, it would require like you bringing your own opinion and having a reason to do so against the model. And then in terms of like the model, I think Porro is a fine sell to get to Arsenal defenders. Could be a fine sell to get to City defenders. Could be a fine sell to go down to 4.5 and free up 1 mil in my case.
But that's what I've done on wildcard essentially, right? So like I started with Porro instead of an Arsenal defender, and now I've gone that way.
Exactly, and I think he's fine though. I don't think he's like a definite sell, but I think he's fine to sell if you have a good reason to go to someone else.
Of course, what are you thinking? Yeah, no, I think I would like if I'm on a wildcard, as you know, that I've already sold, so that's my thought. So, but it's not because he's not attacking anymore, just because I want Arsenal for the fixtures and long term as well. I just want to go that way. Porro would be now in addition to Gabriel, whereas in the past he was instead of in my team. Martin's got Palmer at the moment, and I was planning on moving to Saka, but maybe not. Bruno's going though, right? So yeah, I think yeah, you're not going to get rid of Bruno at all. I know that. I might end up getting sucked into joining you, but hopefully someone like Diaz or Savio, who's a bit more spicy for my liking, gets into my team. I really pray for my own sake. Martin says I'm going to hold Porro for now. So last question from Martin Heeden, and I'll be out of here. So McNeil over Rodgers, change my mind. So battle of spending that extra $500,000, I guess, is the first thing. Then I would actually say it's more like McNeil versus Semenyo or Smith Rowe kind of budget. I wouldn't put them in the same area, but McNeil's exciting, but I guess he would be instead of DCL. So is it like, are we talking like a Wood and McNeil instead of Calvert-Lewin someone?
No, I'm sorry. I don't find McNeil exciting.
He's exciting in like fan tracks and these draft games where, where in total he can just do whatever he likes.
Yeah, like he's okay. Exciting as a stretch though. I think McNeil and Rodgers are both probably pretty similar output guys. I think they're probably both about like 0.4-ish goal plus assist per 90 guys. Rodgers is cheaper and has better fixtures though. So
yeah, that's for me. Like I'm not gonna like I can't. Like I can't. I even go Tavernier first personally, just for these 2 Bournemouth games. If I'm gonna get Semenyo and like just go for 2 games.
Semenyo, I think, is exciting. He didn't have great numbers last year, but with Solanke going, Bournemouth early attacking numbers looking kind of good. He's put up lots of shots. So like, if you want to take a short term, like small sample, I want to say this is improved bet. Like Semenyo, I think, is your guy over McNeil. But even then, I would urge kind of caution on your expectations, even if I think he's a fine pick.
Oh man, I've been sucked in by Kieran as well. I feel discomfort. I've just opened his thread about Bruno, 10 hours of research. And he says I should look at it if I'm considering Bruno. So the gif at the beginning, it looks like he's crying on screen of Bruno. But it seems it's a fair assessment that there's some, I see he's been non-biased, saying good things. But overall, I'm still interested. It would take a Savinho leak maybe to convince me otherwise. But yeah, good to see everyone. Thank you for tuning in live. It's been good to see you, Simon. Obviously, we went a little bit longer just because I know obviously you're going to be with a guest next week. Then it's the international break. It's going to be like 3 weeks till we chat about
so much to say this week. So much to say.
For sure, man. Especially, I guess, because it was the wild card. We'll see if you're any closer to a wild card when we next catch up. It'll be probably game week after the international break, right? So game week 8 we'll be going into, and we'll be catching up ahead of that.
Let's see. Let's see.
Exciting. Thank you everyone for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, please do subscribe and hit that like button. We were Expected Grass and FPL Podcast, and we will see you guys next week. Peace.